Welcome to Ghost Education 101, where curiosity meets experience and the doors to the entire paranormal landscape are finally open. Hosted by Dr. Heather Leigh and Dr. Tiffany Frazier, this series is built for everyone who wants to understand the unexplained the right way. Whether you're just stepping into the unknown or you've been investigating for years, this is the place where you can sharpen your approach, deepen your understanding, and cut through the misconceptions that have overrun this field for far too long. Each episode walks you through the full spectrum of paranormal activity. Classic hauntings, intelligent spirits, cryptids, elemental beings, poltergeist phenomena, and the modern challenges investigators face today. We break it all down. The science, the method, and the mystery, without dumbing it down and without drifting into theatrics. Grounded in research, history, and real-world investigation, Ghost Education 101 is your classroom, your laboratory, and your gateway into the most compelling unexplained experiences on record. Learn, question, discover. Welcome to Ghost Education 101. Now, here are your hosts, Dr. Heather Leigh and Dr. Tiffany Frazier.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Ghost Education 101. I am super excited about today's guest. I will be bringing him in shortly. Sorry you guys are stuck with just me as the host today. Tiffany is in sunny Florida, escaping the cold weather that we have here. Granted, she's in Georgia, but she got that cold snap just as much as we did here in Texas. So she is not going to be joining us, but that makes up for my not being here last week. Thank you, everyone who did reach out to check on me to make sure I was doing okay. I'm slowly recovering, but it's getting there. But I am feeling better and super excited, as I mentioned, for today's guest. So rather than my continuing to babble on, I'm going to bring on tonight's guest. Barnaby, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm here to babble, I see.
I know, yes, to babble. I babble all the time. I just continue and babble on, and people laugh sometimes. I did an introduction before I realized that we were 15 minutes into the show, and I was just rambling on, and that's why I gotta stop myself. So you've been on Ghost Education 101 in the past. We had a panel on cryptids a while ago, so I'm sure that's going to be our topic of focus topic today. I also had you on my other show, Exploring the Paranormal. Always a great conversation. Love having you on the show, so I really do appreciate you taking the time to come back.
Absolutely. Proud to be here.
Mm-hmm. And to start things off, for those who might not know who you are, can you let us know a little bit about yourself and what kind of got you interested in researching cryptids?
Sure. I am Barnaby Jones. I am the founder and lead investigator of Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, better known as Wisconsin CAPS. We are a research-based group out of Wisconsin, but we travel all over the United States doing research on everything from cryptids to paranormal, anomalies, UFOs, metaphysical, you name it. We have each individual on our team represents a different dynamic. So we have cryptids, paranormal, we have mediums, psychics, different modalities that we specialize in. So when we go out on different cases, it allows us to look at that case from every aspect. Instead of having to be experts or knowledgeable of all this stuff on our own, each one of us can have a specialty that allows us to focus in on that. So that's about our team. And I guess I've always been interested in paranormal, cryptids, stuff like that, the Bermuda Triangle, the pyramids, all that weird stuff growing up. And I was always into the paranormal and stuff, because I didn't know that, I had a very limited understanding of Bigfoot and some of these other cryptid creatures. So I didn't realize that they were, all over the United States. I thought they were, Pacific Northwest, like a lot of people believe. And so I focused in on the paranormal. I did some investigating, some research on that all the way up through high school and beyond of there. And had some very intense paranormal encounters at a haunted location that we owned a haunted house at, like a Halloween haunted house. And I ended up going up to Upper Michigan to meet Craig and Barb Sulk, the owners of the Hayden Adventure. And they introduced me to the fact that Bigfoot is not only in Upper Michigan, but Wisconsin and all over. And that kind of led us down to Mary Sutherland and Linda Godfrey and the Burlington Woods down in southern Wisconsin. And we had our first in-person Bigfoot encounter. And after that, we kind of formed CAPS, and that's where that all started. So there you go. That's in a nutshell the history of me.
So I know everybody kind of has, when they think of the paranormal field, of course, they just think of ghosts. And of course, cryptids and all that falls under that big umbrella of paranormal. One thing I'm curious as to how you define it. I know how most people define it, but how would you define a cryptid? And also, how do you kind of draw that line between folklore and a potential undiscovered species?
So a cryptid is an animal that is currently defined by modern science. So it's an animal that hasn't been discovered yet. It can also be an animal that is thought to be extinct, but could still be around. Some examples would be like the thylacine, the Tasmanian tiger, some of your pterosaur sightings and stuff. And then it is also an animal that is out of place where it shouldn't be. So some things that, an animal that exists that it shouldn't exist there, like, I don't know, like if there's kangaroos in Wisconsin, right? So there shouldn't be a wild population of kangaroos, yet there's tons of sightings of kangaroos all the way around Wisconsin here. So that would be another cryptid, anything that stands out of place. But for the most part, a cryptid is a flesh and blood creature. It has reproduces, it eats, it functions, and it's just unclassified by modern science.
Okay. And with that unclassification, do you have any species in mind or that you know of that is close to being classified by science or has the most evidence proving it exists?
There's been some pretty credible sightings of the Tasmanian tiger or the thylacine recently. There's some trail camera photos, and I know of some researchers that are supposedly actually tracking a family unit of these creatures, but it's very classified because like if more people knew where this family unit was, then people would go out there and disturb them and stuff. So it's being studied but not publicly, but that one's probably still some thylacines out there, little populations of them, as well as there's a lot of research into the orang pendek from Sumatra and Indonesia, and there's a lot of credible cryptozoologists and zoologists and stuff that believe that if any of these creatures are going to be discovered, it's probably going to be the orang pendek, because there's so much evidence and stuff behind that one, as far as like not necessarily Bigfoot in general, but the orang pendek is a smaller, more diminutive species of Bigfoot-like creature, just a shorter ape creature.
Okay. And then kind of branching off of that, if you were to have a hand in proving any one of the cryptids exist, which one would you like to have a hand in helping?
Well, I would have to go with the chupacabra. That's always my favorite. There's a lot of stuff around that one, as far as like not necessarily a lot of there's two different kinds. There's the chupacabra that is like the alien hybrid vampire creature that was the folklore, myth, and legend version. And then there's the Texas blue dogs that kind of were discovered, which is a coyote and Mexican wolf hybrid. And this creature came about, our knowledge of it, because of the chupacabra sightings and the reports. But we actually have specimens of this creature and blood samples and DNA work of it. We know that it's an actual animal. And this animal has been seen and photographed, videoed all the way up into Mississippi recently, last year. So there was photos of one of these in someone's backyard up there. So there's a breeding population of these Texas blue dogs, or the dog chupacabra versions. I do not think that that's the creature that was plaguing Puerto Rico and Mexico, and even all the way back to the 1800s. You have very similar reports of these things over in Europe and England and stuff like that over there. That you'd have these mass animal killings, completely drained of blood and stuff. And that is not something that even with an animal with mange or anything like that, they would eat. They're gonna consume the carcass that they killed, at least part of it. And with these reports of the chupacabras and that, there's none of that. It's just an animal killed, puncture wounds, drained of blood. So I don't think that that's the same animal that we're looking at.
Yeah, and that actually brings up two extra questions I have. There are two completely different from each other. So I'm going to start with the first one, since you brought up how regular animals would have attacked these other animals. So, I mean, I know it's important, but how do you feel the importance of knowing actual animal science for species we know versus just looking into the crypto side of it is when you're doing this type of research?
Absolutely. Because if you don't know, if you go out into the woods, I've never been a big camper or anything. I've never spent a lot of time out into the woods until I started with Bigfooting. And you learn so much. There's so many sounds and things that go on out in the woods and, signs to look for and stuff. And you really have to learn about the different animals that are in the woods before you can start looking at these other things. And looking at when I started doing Bigfoot research, I did not go to Bigfoot books. I did not go to, back to Finding Bigfoot and all this stuff to learn Bigfoot. I started researching the great apes, the gorillas, the orangutans, the chimpanzees, bonobos, and learning about those animals to say, okay, could one of these actually exist in the United States? Could one of these live in Wisconsin? And if it did, what are the things that I would look for a habitat, for behavior, for all of this stuff? And I think that's really important, because if you're not looking at if we think that these things are in the ape family, the primate family, the great apes, gorillas, if you're not looking for those characteristics, you're not going to find them at all, because you need to understand what you're looking for. So if you're looking for a species that has certain behavioral traits or feeding patterns or something, you need to look for those in the target species as well. I think she froze. She froze on my end. I don't know if I froze on her end. But so one of the things, so all of your cryptids and stuff, you need to look at the behavior of these animals. So I run the show now. Hello, welcome to my show. I've had guests on my show, a bonobo researcher, and it was one of the really fascinating interviews that I had, and I think everyone should go check that one out on Monsters on the Edge on YouTube. But these, we talk about the wood knocks of these creatures, and I asked her, do bonobos, which are, for anybody that doesn't know what a bonobo is, it's like a chimpanzee. Okay, we originally thought that they were chimpanzees, just a different subspecies, but through research and DNA and stuff, we found out that the bonobo is actually a completely different species of great ape. And welcome back.
Thank you.
And through that DNA analysis, we realized that bonobo is a completely different species. So up until a few years ago, we would have considered the bonobo an actual cryptid as well. So one of the things that she was talking about on my show was that I asked her about the wood knocks, something that we hear a lot in Bigfoot research. And I said, well, do other great apes, like the bonobos, the chimpanzees and stuff that you've worked with, do they do behaviors like this? And it was fascinating, because she said that they don't use sticks or anything to beat on the trees, but they're very strong. They have very thick soles on their feet and their hands and stuff, and they actually rhythmically drum on the roots and the trunks of these trees, which gives you that wood knocking kind of sound. And it's fascinating. Anybody that Sarah Skiba, I believe, was the interview for anybody interested in it, and it was absolutely fascinating. Like if you're really interested in Bigfoot research, Heather, you said you need to look at the other animals that are similar to this and listen to the things that those researchers have to tell us. Ask them their questions. We've heard about the infrasound used in Bigfoot and how it can like paralyze the prey or have this disorienting effect on the body and stuff. And so one of the other animals that does this is tigers or whales or elephants. And elephants are fascinating because the elephants actually use infrasound for long distance communication. And they don't use it for like their ears or anything. They actually feel the vibration in the ground through their feet. So they have very sensitive pads of their feet. And when this infrasound is used for communication, it vibrates the ground and they can feel it in their feet and know where the rest of their herd is. So whenever I go to the zoo or anything like that and I see actual not like the docents and stuff that work at the zoos, like the info people, this way to the bathroom and stuff, but the actual keepers, I always try and talk to them and say, okay, so have you experienced any kind of disorientation, any kind of illness or anything that you would attribute to this infrasound? And I haven't gotten anything back with elephants, but I haven't got a chance to talk to any of like the tiger keepers or anything because those also, and I'm really interested in that, but I never run into any of the tiger keepers and stuff. And trying to get actual zoologists to come on, Monsters on the Edge and talk to me about Bigfoot is quite a task. So I'd really like to talk to somebody that works with tigers and other big cats and stuff about infrasound. So if you're listening, you want to come on my show, shoot me a message. All right.
I'll keep my ears open for that. You never know who we run into and who we can pass on to help out.
Absolutely.
And the thing that I think when you were talking, sorry, I got disconnected. I don't know what
That's
happened.
right.
So I lost internet and I'm like, I'm messaging. I'm like, just keep talking. But you kind of need to know about the other animals for two reasons, I think. One, kind of like we do in the paranormal, we have to kind of disprove what's natural. Absolutely. So when you're out in the wild, you kind of got to, okay, well, no, that's a monkey. That's just a regular animal. And then also they're similar. You need to know the characteristics, like you had said, that could be compared to what is out there and what could be out there.
Like for one of the big ones for us was the barred owl. So this is the whoo, 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 is the very familiar sound. But and I'll give you this, is I haven't actually seen a barred owl do this. But I have taken the audio to different bird researchers, wildlife sanctuaries and stuff, and they've all identified it as a barred owl. Specifically, so I will take their word on it. But in the woods, we have done Bigfoot calls and gotten back a "whoa" from literally like right there, loud as heck. And we're like, I don't know what the heck that was. And the first time we heard it, we had no idea. So we got it on recording several different times, and we bolted with thermals because we're like, whatever this thing is, it's right here.
Right.
Probably, I'm going to say 99% sure it was a barred owl, but it sounds very simian, very ape-like. It's very, wah. I mean, just trying to make that sound with a beak, I don't know, but it's a very unique sound. But it was crazy to hear that out in the woods, pitch black, walking and hiking, and you're out there and you do this call, and then this comes like from the tree right behind you, just loud as anything. And
when you guys use the thermals, you checked above you too, right?
Yeah,
just to make sure it wasn't above you.
Totally did that.
Because one thing I always joke around about is, the paranormal doesn't scare me, but it's the startle of something being there that shouldn't be there.
Exactly.
Like you turn around and there's somebody standing there and you're home alone. It would be similar to that aspect. You're in the pitch darkness, you hear that sound, you turn around and you're face to face with with Bigfoot.
Yeah. Yeah, there was one occasion we were doing an inchworm style hike. So one guy goes ahead and the one guy stays behind. Then this one moves up to that one, and then they move ahead, and so it kind of goes like this through the woods, so that you're alone but within screaming distance.
Yeah.
And so my partner Chris that night was probably maybe quarter mile away from me, and we're like, okay, I'm gonna do a howl. And I did that, and this "wah" came from I was in a little clearing, and it was right at the edge of the clearing. And he's like, "What was that?" And I'm like, "I think it was an owl, but it was right behind me." "It was right behind you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So very interesting.
It's one of those, you want to be brave enough to look around, but yet you don't want to show fear, but you probably feel the fear.
Yeah. Well, when
you
the first reaction of hearing that is like, okay, it was probably an owl, but this sound just comes right back, because I'm the only one out there. It's this pitch black at night. We're walking, in these woods and stuff, and me and Chris are the only ones out there. We know we're the only ones out there for miles, right?
Yeah.
And then this sound comes out of the woods right behind you. That's pretty crazy. But.
Yeah. Yep. I had not like that, but we were investigating a location, and I walked into a room, didn't even realize I was alone. And then all of a sudden I felt what felt like a hand run down from the back of my neck down my spine. And I was like, I turned around thinking it was the investigator behind me. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm alone. It's like, yeah, that's unsettling. It's a great feeling because you're like, oh yay, they're interacting with us. But then it's unsettling because it's like, okay, what can happen? Because you never know.
Yep. I've had that experience with doing Estes sessions, and we were at this haunted. Well, this happened at several locations, but this one in particular, we were sitting at this long table in a restaurant bar that was haunted, and my team was sitting on one side of the table, and then the bar owners and their people were on this side. So we were all at this long table, and I tell people, if you have to get up or something, because I tell you to get up, or we need to go look at something or something, it's fine. But try and stay seated so I don't hit you. Because if somebody moves by me, I'm gonna be like, I feel someone back here walking, and I swat at you. And it drove me nuts, because I'm sitting at the end of this table doing the Estes, and people kept walking back and forth behind me. Like I could feel it. I could feel it like in the movement of the floor. I could sense, the presence of somebody around me. And I got so upset. I took the stuff off, and I'm like, look, you guys got to sit still. And they all looked at me like, we haven't got up and moved. The guy's like, well, I turned this light off, but I just stood up. I'm like, no, who's been walking back and forth behind me? They're like, no one. And I went back and watched the video. There was no one behind me. It was crazy. And this happened on several occasions where I'll feel like things walking behind me, and I've just kind of accepted that, nobody should be back there. And this is I just kind of like, yeah, there's somebody back here, but it was insane that day.
That's why I have trouble in hotel rooms, because there've been some hotels where it feels like someone's crawling into bed with us.
God.
And it's like, there's nobody in this room.
Okay, but I get to be Big Spoon. That's it.
Yeah, everybody else is sleeping. It's like, but you can feel like someone either sits on the edge of the bed, or it's weird. It's creepy. But yeah, I get that in hotel rooms. Yeah, I don't sleep much when we travel.
I don't have that problem. I put my head down and I'm out. So, and I don't wake up until the alarm goes off, or I have to pee. So
there have been very few hotels that I'm comfortable enough to sleep in all night long, and it's not the hotel itself. It's just with what we do, I know what's there.
I've had hotels that I didn't want to sleep in all night long, but that wasn't because it was haunted. So yeah.
I've been in a few of those too. So going back to the one other question, because that triggered off two questions. It was, you guys, I know you said you travel all across the US. Do you also travel across around the world, or is there one place you would like to travel to do research?
I think that goes back to my initial, what do I want to discover? So I haven't been outside the US for anything. I do have a passport. And the funny thing is I got the passport to go to Puerto Rico. And then I realized that Puerto Rico was the United States so I didn't need a passport. But anyway, I have a passport.
People.
I have a passport. And I would like to go to Puerto Rico. I would like to go. I have heard recent sightings of like gargoyles down in Puerto Rico.
Yep.
And I think that, as time goes by, folklore, legends, and stuff change. And I think that these sightings of the chupacabra being very reptilian, spines down its back, big eyes. If you didn't know that and you saw one of these creatures, you might consider it a gargoyle. And so I'm thinking that these creatures may still be there, but they're being called something different now. And that's one of the main things with cryptozoology is when you look at any of these sightings, they say, oh, well, there was only one of these things ever seen. We only have, the Ohio grassman. We only have this creature, that creature, whatever, these names. But when you take away the name and you look at the description, the MO, what it did, where it was seen, how it was interacting and stuff, and you just look at that and compare that to other sightings around the world, you see that these creatures have more than one sightings, more than one state, more than one country. And when you look at these things with the gargoyle versus the chupacabra, it's possible that the descriptions are the same creature, whatever these people are seeing. But now, because it's been a while since it's been El Chupacabra rampaging through Puerto Rico and Mexico, that some people, the newer generation, or people have forgotten, and they go, oh, this thing is looks like a gargoyle. Okay, so now it's a gargoyle. And you see that a lot in these stories. So another one is like the Mothman. These creatures, the Birdman, the Man Bat, the Moth Squatch. You have so many different names and stuff of these things, but their descriptions are all kind of very similar. Even around the world in like Papua New Guinea and stuff, you have creatures like this, like the like the Aswang or the and that was one I couldn't think of. Ahul. And then you have this witch entity down, and I can never remember the name of that either. There's a witch entity down in Mexico that transforms into a bat person, and in folklore. And this sounds very much like the Mothman creature. Not the transforming, but the creature that is. There's a lot of folklore that lends itself to fear or the unknown. For anybody that's interested in Bigfoot research, I don't get paid to support this guy, but Matt Pruitt wrote an amazing book. And it's all about the folklore and stuff of cryptids, and not cryptids, but Bigfoot in particular. And he talks about like the tiger or like the gorillas and stuff, and how these, when they were described by the native people, they had all these magical, mystical powers of disappearing, or all these things that the indigenous people saw and thought that they did. And now that they've been discovered by science, we know that all that isn't necessarily true, and we can attribute that to natural behaviors like camouflage, or the infrasound possibly, and some of this other stuff. And so when you strip all that assumption and mystique away, you're still left with just this animal. And I think that's what we're going to find with a lot of these things, like the chupacabra, the Mothman and stuff, where they don't necessarily transform, but you see it out of the corner of your eye and you think you see a person, and all of a sudden you turn and look, and because your mind is, your eyes and your mind are programmed throughout your life to recognize patterns and certain things. So you see something standing out of your corner eye that kind of looks human shaped, your mind is going to say it's a person standing there. And when you turn and look, and there's this giant, flying humanoid being standing there, you think, oh my gosh, this person transformed into this Mothman. When it really didn't. It's just your eyes playing tricks on you. And there's so much fun stuff that you can do with this, with psychology, and that if you go online and look at some of these videos, or like optical illusions and stuff, you really see how your mind starts to play tricks on you, where like a few years ago there was that dress that was either teal, pink or whatever it was, and
Yep.
and people got into arguments and arguments over this because it's so stupid, or these tennis shoes that were like that, and
Yep.
it shows you how your mind perceives things.
Yep.
And taking that into consideration when we see things out in the woods, that you see an animal cross the road and you say, I know bears live in the woods, that was probably a bear, and then it stands up on its hind legs and you go, it's a bear, and then it walks away and you go, that was a weird bear, and you just can't process that, and this is why a lot of people think that their sightings are bears or stuff. But again, that goes back to knowing your creatures, because like you look at the body form of what people are describing, their shoulders, like we have neck and then shoulders come out. Bears don't have that. When bears do stand on their hind legs, they have head and then slope. They don't have shoulders. Their arms are forward, so they don't have the arms that can go like this. So their body does not lend them to have that kind of structure. So even if somebody saw a bear stand up and walk out of the woods, possible, 100% possible. But that's not what people are describing.
Yeah.
It could again be the opposite. People see a bear walk out of the woods, they think it's a Bigfoot. But when you look at the actual what they're describing is having these broad 4-foot wide shoulders. This is one of the most common things that's described in Bigfoot, is how wide these things are. Not even so much tall. I mean, they get 6, 7, 8 feet tall is the typical description, but it's not that. It's the width of how wide these things are when people see them. And bears are big, but in Wisconsin or most of the United States and stuff, you just have the black bears, and black bears are very small, like person size. You get bigger ones, but unless you get up into the grizzly bears and stuff, you don't have that massive 8-foot tall creature. You're going to get maybe a 6, 7 foot on its hind leg black bear at most.
Yeah.
I don't think they get 7 feet.
No. It's amazing how from state to state, all of these, like you said, sightings are similar to each other. Because before leaving Florida, I started researching a book on urban legends of Florida. And I mean, I had everything from something similar to Loch Ness Monster, Lizard Man. Of course, we had the skunk ape down there. And when you had brought up the witch that turned into a bat in the town we actually lived in, there was an urban legend that there was a witch just on the border of the town that would be seen, and then she would just disappear. And all of a sudden, next thing they knew, they saw a bat flying away. And it's just really, when you brought that up, it reminded me of that research that I was doing for that book.
My brain only remembers certain things, and I wish I could, because I talk about the witch bat lady a lot, and for the life of me, I can never remember. It's lost something.
I might have to do some research on that, because I'm doing a research project on witchcraft, and that might be something interesting to research to put in there, since they do name her as a witch in both that sighting and the one that we had in Florida.
Oh yeah, there's tons of that. If you're into like the witches and weird stuff like that, look into little island, Philippines. There is tons of creepy, weird cryptids over there. Yeah, there's a one woman witch, and she literally separates at the midsection. And she flies around as this like disembodied torso with her intestines hanging out and stuff. And if you can find the lower half of her when she's away at night, you can capture her and contain her or whatever. But otherwise, she's immortal and all this stuff. She's really cool. Philippines has a lot of weird stuff. Yeah, a lot of weird folk. So.
Yep. So, and I always say that a lot of the stuff comes from things that people have witnessed. Because I know we have great imaginations, but some of the stories out there, it's someone had to witness something that triggered their imagination to come up with these stories.
Well, that's 100% true, and that's what makes this stuff so interesting. Is all of these animals. You talk about gorillas, the okapi, which is like a large, kind of looks like a horse, but it's related to a giraffe. Long neck with brown. Looks like the head of a giraffe, but then the butt is like zebra stripe for anybody. Just for someone who doesn't know what it is. But okapis, These,
I know them only because I worked at Disney and we would go to Animal Kingdom a lot, and they would talk about the okapis.
oh, they're great. There's not many zoos that have them either. I'm
Yeah.
fortunate. Brookfield down in Chicago has a few
Yeah.
of them, and that's the closest zoo for me. But
Okay.
they're really cool animals. I like them. But so the gorillas, okapis, even the platypus and stuff like that. These animals, who's going to believe in an okapi? Who's going to believe that there's a black-haired human hairy running around in the woods? Bigfoot. Who's going to believe that this is possible? And the indigenous people are like, no, we saw it. It's out there. And there's very small populations of them. Well, okay, look at this for example. Sumatra, Indonesia. I don't think many people are aware the Sumatran rhinos. They are a very small, large pig size. Well, bigger than that. Like a, I don't know, the size of a garbage can. Big garbage can. Sumatran rhinos. Anyway, but they're hairy, reddish colored rhinos, and there's only like 60 of them left in the wild, 50 or 60. There was just one born recently, so that's great. The only zoo in the United States that had them in the last like 10, 15, 20 years was Cincinnati Zoo, and they had a pair of them, and they shipped them back to Indonesia for breeding. So I was fortunate enough back in the day when I was younger and stuff to go see them at Cincinnati. So I have pictures of them and that, but you don't know that these things exist. So if somebody came and told you that there was a hair-covered rhino running around, I mean, this sounds like a cryptid right there. But these are an animal. I mean, they're just very rare, very endangered. Like I said, only 50, 60 of them around. But here they are again on these small remote islands of Sumatra, Indonesia, and that, which again is where the orang pendek is, the orangutan, which is a Bigfoot size creature. Orangutan is large man of the forest. Orang pendek is small man of the forest, and then of course orangutan, as we all know, is wild man of the forest. So or hairy man of the forest. But,
And one thing, it was actually brought up on one of my shows years ago. I had I wish I could remember his name. I can't, but he also worked for the National Park Service. I interview so many people, and I only remember the ones that come back on a second time. Sorry for those who I've interviewed in the past, but he had mentioned that in his not in his research, he actually stumbled upon while working what appeared to be a family of what he believed to be Bigfoot. It was easily identifiable size-wise. One was the male, one was the female, one was the junior of the group. Have you ever encountered anything like that in your research, or do you think Bigfoot is family-oriented, or are they more solo creatures?
That's a good question. I guess there's two camps with that, of being family unit versus solo. Some people tend to believe that they're more like orangutans, that there would be a family unit of perhaps like a couple adult females and then the infants and juveniles, and they will live in specific areas. We don't believe that these things are migratory at all. So they would have specific areas, quite big areas. I mean, we're not talking like, a city block or something, but like, 30-mile radius or something, 40-mile radius, a large swatch of area. But they would spend their entire lives in this area. And then there would be males that would travel between these groups for breeding.
Okay.
That's one theory. That would be kind of like the orangutan style of behavior. But it's possible as well that they do travel in family units. We have heard a lot of stories of family units moving together. In my personal experience, in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, we were studying this one, what I guess would be a family unit. There was 3 of them traveling together. And I know this because we found 3 distinct size footprints in one single area. So we had an incident where these rocks were being thrown at us from across the river. And the next day we went on that side of the river, and the entire bank is covered with these footprints. We cast a few of them. We actually cast a handprint as well there.
Wow.
If you ever see me in person, I travel with it. You can see that at all my presentations and stuff. But we cast a few of these. A lot of them we couldn't cast because they were just like in the grass, so there was no indentation, but you could see where the feet were and stuff. But there was 3 sizes. So there was the smallest was a 9-inch, and then I think it was a 12 and a 16. But they're very distinct.
Right.
And then it's interesting because about 10, 15 miles away, we had another witness that had one on his property, and he had a 4th size footprint that I believe was a 10-inch track, or 10 or 12-inch track, but it was a distinct size different than what these other 3 were. So a lot of people believe that a lot of the road crossings and stuff that we see are the adolescents of the groups, the males, when they get out of their family units to go off on their own, and still kind of young and stupid. And this is why people are seeing them cross the road, or, they're not the most intelligent, doing things on their own, not very situated, or obviously because they're leaving one family unit to go off on their own, they're traveling more. So they're seeking out their new territory or whatever. And this would be why more people are seeing them and having these sightings. So this is why, you have those kind of situations.
And I mean, and if they grew up protected by the adults of the group, they don't know what a road is. They might never have seen one, depending on where they were at. They don't know who humans are, because if the adults know what is out there and they were doing very well to protect them, they might, that's probably could be another reason why, because they're curious, as well, what's this? I didn't know this existed.
Yeah, and that's why also, it could help tell us why you don't see them more in that area. So if you see a Bigfoot cross a road, and then you spend the next 2 years looking in that area, well, you're not going to find anything because he was just crossing it to go to a new territory. It's not necessarily that was. Whereas if you see 2 cross the road together, which does happen, this is more, would tell you more of a family unit in that area. But, with these one-off cases where one crossed the road or something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go back and find them in their specific spots.
Yeah. And I know there are theories, in addition to, Bigfoots being here permanently in family units or however they live in the wilderness, but there are also some who believe that they're interdimensional. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that goes, you have people that have the abilities to be mediums. Well, we all do. The abilities to tap into these other things. You have the monks that can transcend and, go to these higher planes and stuff like that. And for the most part, humans, in the United States and that are destroyed by chemicals. We constantly are putting food that we shouldn't be eating and water and Mountain Dew and energy drinks and stuff, pouring and polluting ourselves. So if you have any kind of natural animal that is more in tune with its environment, I don't see why we couldn't have creatures out there that are capable of mind speak or telepathy or something. I mean, you have plants that we know communicate via chemicals.
Yep.
So, in Africa, you have a specific tree that when a giraffe comes and starts eating on it, it releases this chemical that blows on the wind, and all the trees downwind get this chemical and start producing this bitterness in their leaves, so that when the giraffe goes to the next tree, it's bitter and they won't eat it. So this is science.
Right.
If we know that stuff like this happens, who's to say that we can't take that to the next level? If we can mentally communicate and have, mediums and that kind of ability, if we were able to get away from all the toxic stuff and that we do, and you gotta take into consideration that the world as a whole isn't much better. I mean, you still have polluted water and stuff that, Bigfoot's obviously drinking, chemicals too as well. Yeah. So, are eating plastics and stuff. So, I mean, we're not all good, but I don't see why it wouldn't be possible to have animals have the capabilities of the supernatural or paranormal.
Yep. Okay. And when you go out and do your investigations or research on anything, which do you find either more credible or most useful to you, whether it's personal experiences, secondhand stories, actual hard evidence like gathering the feet, or capturing the feet and all of that stuff? Which do you kind of find as your best evidence and tool during your research?
Eyewitness accounts are good. It gives us a pattern of evidence, but even so, it doesn't, if somebody tells you that there was one sighted, it doesn't mean it's going to be there the next day when you go back, right? But what you can do is you can go there and look at the history. Has there been sightings there before? Well, because like I said, chances are these things live in one area. Whether it be 20 miles, 30 miles, however big their home range is. We know this for a lot of animals. Look at your big cats and stuff like that. They have a home range. They may leave it. They may, go around wolves, other creatures and stuff. Again, going back to what you originally said with looking at other animals and their behavior. There's no reason to believe that if these things aren't a flesh and blood animal, that they wouldn't have a home range. So when we look at that, you want to look at recent recent evidence, like broken sticks, grass matted down, trackways, stuff that's fresh, because this will tell you, if something's moved through the area. And then you have to realize, is there elk in the area? Is there moose in the area? Is there other large creatures? So your best is just an overall observation of the area. It's not one thing or another. Your best evidence is a collection. So, unless you have a body, unless you have one of these animals brought in, it's not going to be one thing. We've learned this over time. It's not going to be a footprint. It's not going to be a video. It's not going to be, any of that's going to solve this and declare a species. But if we had, very similar to the Patterson-Gimlin film, you have the video of this thing, you have eyewitness accounts, you have footprint casts that were taken at the site. If we had DNA and we had maybe a hair sample from that, we'd have a lot more to go on. So if you have all this stuff in one area that you can put to this one species, you have a lot better chance of having a good piece of evidence then.
Yep. And going on the skeptic side, because with what we do every day, we deal with people who tell us either we're crazy or no, that's fake. How do you deal with skeptics? And have you ever taken a skeptic out with you that experienced something that completely changed their mind and turned everything around in their mind?
The internet is a very toxic place.
Yep.
And I go on the internet because I have to. And I see sighting reports and I read all the comments because that's how you find stuff, right? So you see a picture and you say, okay, I saw this weird thing, and you go through the comments and you figure out where it is and you learn from this. And doing that, you see a lot of people make comments. And I'm not here to start a fight. I know what I've seen. I know what I've experienced, and I'm not here to prove it to anybody else. I know what I've experienced. It's 100% fact. I believe these things are out there. I've had too many experiences that can't be explained any other way. And it's not my job to prove it. And I'm not going to get into an argument with somebody online or in person. If you don't believe it's, legitimate, you've never had an encounter. So that's where I stand on that. I have taken people out on several expeditions for caps and events and stuff like that. And we have come back with, I can't necessarily say 100% Bigfoot, but there's been some weird stuff that's happened out on some of these expeditions. And they're like, I don't know what that was. So we've heard audio. We actually last year at the Wisconsin Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Convention, we took 3 different groups out into 3 different parts of the woods, and all three groups saw the same UFO that night. So it was really interesting. We went out Bigfooting, didn't find a Bigfoot, didn't hear or have any evidence of Bigfoot, but 3 different parts of the woods, well over a couple miles apart, no communication between the 3 groups, all 3 groups saw the same UFO. So that was really cool. I did not see the UFO because my group was at the moment split into 2 little groups. My part was listening to something moving around in the woods, while the other half of my group was staring up at a UFO that they didn't tend to, like, hey, look up, you're going to miss this. No.
Yeah, that would be me. I'd be the one listening with my head down, and everyone else is just standing behind me, like, look.
Yep, thermal imager out in the woods, staring off over here, and me and the 2 or 3 other people were standing here, all staring at the thermal, going, "Oh, what's that over there? Oh, it sounds like something's snapping twigs. Oh, is there something in there?" And then these guys are back here going, "Oh, look at that! Oh, videos." And I was like, "Oh, don't bother telling us or not."
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I'd rather look in the woods than a UFO. But okay. What was your question? Oh, skeptics. Yeah, we've had some out on the group and stuff, and just had some weird experiences. I mean, like, you name it. I've had weird stuff happen in the woods. Everything from audio to thermal to I've seen orbs. I've actually seen a blue basketball size orb moving through the woods. And that was weird. I actually got that on thermal, and it wasn't hot, it wasn't cold, it looked like a soap bubble moving across the screen. So.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to get reconnected here. I have my phone ready to go in case I lose it again. Oh my goodness. This is because we picked on the company that provides my internet service earlier before we went live. No, and normally, like I said,
that's the problem.
Yeah. And I usually have a co-host, so she'll lose internet, I'll be here, so there'll still be someone talking to. But yeah, it's the last 2 weeks have been kind of interesting. So with bringing up the UFOs, I kind of brought up another question in my mind: is have you guys ever partnered with MUFON, or have they ever reached out to you for any questions on anything that, like, areas that you investigated for Bigfoot research that might correlate to what they're researching?
So there is, and I could be wrong on this because I haven't talked to anybody this year or in the last like 6 or 8 months, but there is or was currently no MUFON director of Wisconsin. I know the Illinois director and I know the Minnesota director, and both of them have told me that and the Michigan director too. I know all 3 of them, and we don't have one in Wisconsin. Okay. So that would be why we don't talk to MUFON in Wisconsin. I've had communication, especially with the Minnesota branch. I've talked to them. I've had him on my show and stuff, but we don't. The thing with UFOs is, like I said before, with a witness comes forward and says, "Hey, a UFO flew over my house." I've always thought, well, that's cool. What do we do with it? If it didn't land, it didn't abduct you, didn't leave any evidence, didn't leave burn marks, crop circles, anything, what can I actually do with that? So we kind of batted that around for quite a while, and we ended up doing a couple episodes on our YouTube series about CE5, the calling UFOs down with a group of meditation stuff. And so we've done that instead. And we've gotten, Caps, I love technology. And I believe that even paranormal, even, metaphysical and stuff can be quantified through science. That being said, I take everything as a show me, as a proof, because I'm not out to prove it to anybody. But as a skeptic myself, I want people to understand that this is real, right? So how can we quantify this? So when we go out to CE5, I set up a 6-foot table with all kinds of equipment. And we have everything from star trackers, not UFO trackers, airplane, satellite, star, what's the other one? I don't know. There's different, anything that's in the sky we can track through an app. And so when somebody's there and they go, "What's that over there?" we all look down at the star things and go, "Nope, that's this." And we've done 3 major investigations with CE5, and on all 3 of those we've gotten like 1 each night of something anomalous, truly anomalous, that was not a satellite, was not a airplane, was nothing on any of the trackers. Now, granted, something could have slipped through, or something. as far as anything that was transmitting or, should be, there was nothing there. So.
Yeah. So Anton's listening, and he says, thank you for your validation on that one. I know he's very into scientific proof and all of that. And that's my whole purpose of being in the paranormal field is I truly do believe it can be I hate the word, that cannot be a pseudoscience, because I truly do believe that there are ways that we can eventually prove it. We just have to find out how. Just like, medicine and physics and chemistry and all of that used to be pseudoscience. We've just now gone to the world where the unknown, we're back at the unknown, could be, proven somehow or some way. We just got to find out. We just got to develop the tech to get there.
We are very, very new to all this science stuff. I think I was listening to something the other day that said it was only less than 300 years ago that we didn't know what germs were.
Yep.
So all this, like where did disease come from? Where's all this airborne stuff? These little microorganisms. 300 years ago, we didn't even know what that was. And science is, we all think that science is the end all be all of, okay, well, science says this. But when you look at science, I mean, look at, you go back to Da Vinci and all these guys, back in the day of, early astronomers and stuff like that, we thought that the sun and everything revolved around the earth, right? We're learning constantly, about the planets, the solar system, the things that are out there, everything that we think we know about science is constantly evolving and changing. And the things that we learned of as a kid in school is wrong. Like, there's 9 planets, right?
Yep. Well,
yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
still say there are. I'm not changing on that one.
I say there's 10, but we're not going to get into that. So, but there's constantly new stuff. Like, okay, in my cryptozoology presentation that I do, I talk about the platypus. So here's a creature that is absolutely, bizarre. Everything from, it's a mammal that lays eggs. It is venomous. It has just amazing creature.
And in the dark or black light.
That's where I'm going with this. So everything that we thought we knew about this thing, and then for whatever reason, a scientist sticks this thing under a black light and realizes that it glows. It has biofluorescent. It glows, not bioluminescent. It doesn't glow on its own, but it glows under black light. So then they started sticking other marsupials, other Australian animals under the black light. And sure enough, they all started to glow under black light. Then they started doing this to other animals and other things. And it's just because no matter what we think of science, science is based on money. And this is completely what's wrong with it. We don't take an animal, we don't take something and study it. We study it because domestic house cat. Okay. If we take this animal and we think we know everything there is to know about these things. We live with them. We have, veterinaries that are experts in these creatures. But, we take one and look at the eyes of this cat. And the only reason that we look at the eyes is because we want to see, okay, they can see well in the dark. How can we use this to help people see better? That's what we look at. We don't look at the cat. We look at parts of the cat that could help humans.
Right.
Because that's what we're paid to do. A lot of scientific discoveries were made on accident. They're not somebody set out to discover something. We didn't set out to discover penicillin. We didn't set out to discover radioactivity. These were accidents. And they changed everything that we know. Everything that we know about science is based on the discovery of these things. But they're complete accidents because someone was studying something else. And that's the problem is, we don't know what we don't know. It's possible that all these things are interdimensional, that every animal out there, can go in and out of this realm or into another realm or whatever. We could do this. Some people believe that we have, people have, claimed to go through portals and end up in a different world or a different timeline or something. Did you, how can you say that this stuff is made up or fake or they're full of it when you didn't experience it? A lot of the brightest minds that we consider today would have been stuck in like insane asylums and
Yep.
mental institutions back in the day.
Mhm.
Because it's the autism and all this stuff that people have, was considered a disease,
Yeah.
and you would be stuck in an asylum or something because of that.
Yeah.
And nowadays we know and understand the difference in this stuff and realize that it's not what it was.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because one of my guilty pleasures is watching the TV show Ghosts. I've just fallen in love with that show. And when you're talking about science is like more recent, one thing that I didn't realize, and I actually had to look it up, is they were talking about dinosaurs on the show. And the Revolutionary War ghost was like, oh, that's, a bunch of hogwash. That's all made up and everything. And it's like, that was only, discovered in the 1820s.
Correct.
So yeah, it's amazing how new science really is when you think about it compared to the lifespan of, Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, I want to say it's 1920 or 1930 was when the lowland gorilla was actually described by science.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
we didn't have gorillas until the 1920s, 1930s.
Yep.
So that's, gives you an idea of how, like, science is very new to us. And the things, the technology advances and the things that we have come through, whether it be alien tech or whatever have you, we still figured this stuff out very recently. We've gone from, an entire room computer to a cell phone, in a very short amount of time. I mean, less than 100 years or something.
Yeah.
That, we've gone from, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and if you ever get down to Florida, go to the Florida Everglades, because I've heard rumors from several people who have visited. I wish I knew exactly what part of the Everglades it was. I can easily find out though if you ever go down. But a friend of mine, he was a park ranger down there, and there was one particular boardwalk that he would have to walk, and he said crossing over that boardwalk, it was like going into another dimension. It felt completely different on one side, and then he would walk the boardwalk back out, and and he would be back, in what he called reality.
Yeah.
It was just, it was absent of sound. It was completely silent. And he's like, you just knew the minute you walked in. And I've heard other people say, and I've read other stories, that this particular boardwalk kind of takes you into a whole nother world.
Great. I recently had an experience right here in my house. So we all know the familiarity you have with your house, right? You can turn off the lights, and for the most part, you can walk through your house and not stub into anything or know anything.
Yep.
So I take a nap before work, and I woke up and I walked out into my hallway. So there's my bedroom, and then a hallway, and it goes down the hall to my bathroom. And on the one side of my hallway is these two totes up against the wall. And then on this side, there's a ladder that goes up to my attic, and it's just leaning against the wall. Mm-hmm. They have been there for 3 years. I mean, things don't move around in my house very often. They've been there, we'll say, at least 3 years. Okay. So twice a day, at least every single day, I walk past them, walk down this hallway, past those two totes, this ladder, go to the bathroom. And I woke up, got up, and I walked out into that hallway and instantly felt that something moved. Like the totes were closer and that the hallway was narrower. And it completely threw me off, because these totes have not moved. That ladder is in the exact same spot. Nothing's changed. Okay. And so I went, that was really weird. And sometimes when you wake up, you're a little groggy still, and I thought, okay, whatever. Went to the bathroom, turned on the shower, went back down the hall to get my stuff to, get ready, and that came back out, and I went, okay, now we're going to see. And I walked back in the hallway, and it was the same weird feeling. And I'm like, something's different. Yeah. Like there's just something different in this hallway. Mm-hmm. And I walked in the bathroom, and my shower has like like fossily stone on the walls. Mm-hmm. So there's like little, it's fake, but it's like fossils and stones and stuff in there. And I looked in the shower, and the pattern was different.
Huh.
And I spent I like my long showers. I spent 20, 30 minutes in a shower a day, So anyway, I look in there and I'm like, that's not right. And I took my shower and I went about the rest of my day. And I was like, and now when I walk down the hall, I don't feel that again. I haven't had it since, but twice. And then the shower, just something was off.
Yeah,
well, I don't know what that was, but it was very, very disorienting, very out of place. So
right. I wonder if it was like some type of portal bubble, or I don't know.
My team, my mediums on my team have told me there's something weird about that hallway, that there is not a portal, not a bad portal, but there's an energy portal there. I've been told to put salt in where I'm in the room is the bathroom is over here, and then my bedroom is right next to this room. So the hallway runs outside this room here. And there's a little closet right here. And I was told to put salt in that closet because there's something in by the door to the attic.
Okay.
There's some portal there. I don't know. But that's not exactly where this happened. It was the same hallway, obviously, but it was
right. I don't know. Something hiding in the attic that comes down every once in a while when it thinks it's safe. You know, just an energy of some sort. Interesting. Interesting. You got to investigate your own home.
No. This is one thing you do not do is investigate your own.
I know. You send someone else into.
Yeah, that's right. Send someone else to kick things out. When I first got my spirit box, I do not investigate my house for that reason.
Yep.
When I first started CAPS, we were going down to the Burlington Woods, and my house, I have lived here since 2007. I've never had a paranormal experience in my house. I have never had anything aside. When I first moved in, there was a bathrobe left in my house, and I have an open staircase. So I threw the bathrobe over the railing to the bottom so that I could take it and throw it away. And it hung nicely on a nail on the wall.
I thought you were going to say it got thrown back up to you.
No, it was hanging like somebody picked it up and hung it on a nail on the wall on the stairwell. I was like, that's the only thing that I ever happened in, up until CAPS that I would say was paranormal. And that was the first week we moved in. But since then I've never had any experiences here. And then when I started CAPS, we were going down to the Burlington Woods pretty regularly, which is everything from Bigfoot, fairies, UFO sightings, everything down there. It is like a hot spot for you name it. And legit, we've gotten evidence for everything down there. It's fabulous freaking place to do research and portals and all kinds of stuff. But so we were going down there and I was packing up my gear in the living room. And again, nothing ever paranormal happened. And I heard footsteps upstairs. Distinct footsteps upstairs, and I'm like, okay, okay, whatever, So then they started coming down the stairs, and I'm standing in the living room, facing the staircase, and I'm just like, well, I can't see it because the stairs goes up behind the wall, so I can just see the bottom of the stairs from where I'm standing. And I'm waiting for something to come out of there. And so I'm like, all right, you want to do this? I got out my camera, plugged it in, turned it on, went, all right, come on down. You want to make noise? You want to be in my house? Show yourself. Do something. Nothing happened. Turned it off. And a plastic soda bottle that was in my kitchen flew across the room. So I got a bunch of salt lamps and other things to protect my house from all this stuff. But anyway, I don't investigate the house for that reason. It stays outside. I leave it outside. I'll go visit you. You don't come to me. And
I'm a firm believer in that as well.
The very first day that I got my spirit box, I wanted to turn it on and give it a try. And so I turned it on. And the only thing that came out of there was here to help. And I went, good. All right. As long as you're here to help. I don't want to talk to you though. Bye. And I turned it off. Oops. But clear as day, the thing goes, here to help.
And I do have something to go off of that one, but thank you, Grace, for chiming in. Oh my God, I can't talk tonight, but yes, tapping the hearts and the likes do help out the show. So show us your love. Let us know you're here. If you guys have any questions for Barnaby or myself, let us know. But yeah, we're doing an event, and a local museum asked us to come out, and I usually don't use the spirit box too often but we bought one for the event because guest satisfaction. They want to see, what they see on the shows and all that stuff. So we bought it, and my son's like, let's test it out. And I'm like, get in the car. We're going to the park.
Yeah.
And we went to the park, test it out, play with it, and learn how to use it. But yeah, our home protected top to bottom. I've only had a couple spirits. We lived in an apartment in Florida, and I called him George, but I would see him walk from the front door into our son's room, because my son's room door was right by the front door. And I'm assuming someone who had lived there in the past, or just someone, it was like more of a residual thing because it happened the same time every day. But then we would also smell smoke, cigar smoke. Check outside, nobody's smoking near the apartment. I just go in the house and I'd be like, dang it, George, stop smoking. Instantly stopped, gone. So we had that. And then in Vegas, we had one, he almost would check on me. We investigated, our team, we had meetings at a local place that we couldn't disclose, but we would go there. They let us investigate as long as we shared what we found. So that way they knew what was there. And we'd stopped going for COVID. And in my kitchen, all of a sudden he appeared, and it was more or less just, okay, you're okay, I'm good. And he disappeared. So nothing bad has ever gotten in the house, but I do leave a little leeway for the good spirits to come in and just make themselves known and be like, hey, we're kind of watching over you type of thing. But yeah, I would never do an EVP session. I may take photos around the house if I suspect something's there, but I'm not going to be like, hey, show yourself. I'm not going to do what you did.
We did investigate. It was our first live investigation on CAPS on our YouTube page that we investigated my mom's garage, because that is haunted. And that was really, really interesting place. But we didn't get anything really that night. But growing up there, we had all kinds of, the garage door fly open, radios would turn on and off, the lights would flash. And she took, when they first built the garage, she took pictures, and there was fog in the building, and you could see faces in it. And there's no fog. I mean, there was no fog machine or nothing in the building. It was empty at the time. But there was this just fog captured on these pictures, and they're really interesting. So you can see them on the fog.
Yeah, catching fog is real interesting too, because we did an investigation of a home, and a lot of activity was happening in the daughter's room. So we were taking photos, and she had a vanity with a mirror, and you could see the whole room. So you could obviously see there was no fog in the room, but you would have one picture, clear mirror, second picture, fog at the bottom of the mirror, and then third picture, clear. And it's like, we did everything we could. And that's kind of a creepy feeling to know that you're in this room and this is what's happening in the mirror. I think it's worse when you get home.
I did, for clarification, I guess I shouldn't say I don't do anything at my house, because when we were shooting the Urban Legends episode, I did set up an entire vanity and stuff to do Bloody Mary. And I tried that, and that was a creepy experience. Even though I didn't think anything was going to happen, I did it 100%. Like, we're going to do this. I set up meters and all this equipment and stuff and cameras, but I didn't get none. But I did that.
That's one of those where you don't think anything's going to happen, but in the back of your head, it's like, what if?
What if? Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, am I going to screw myself here on this one? And
yeah, exactly. That's what you always got to be prepared, because you never know,
Yeah.
And sometimes we purposely do stuff and not record it, because that's when you get stuff that happens, So.
Yeah. So, and then I still have several questions. Hopefully I can get through them. We have about 45 minutes left. But cryptids fall in the category, I'm assuming, biological, because you've had some proof and stuff like that. Because they're biological, do you feel that they truly do fall under the umbrella of paranormal?
A lot of people put them under paranormal. I would say that there are creatures that are classified as cryptids that are paranormal, that I guess shouldn't be cryptids, like Mothman.
Right.
I would not consider Mothman a typical cryptid. It definitely falls under that category, but I would say that if the Mothman exists, the characteristics of the creature and what it does and its MO and stuff are not biological. They don't follow into the same aspects of what a cryptid should be. So that would fall under the metaphysical paranormal side. There are some other creatures as well. A lot of this falls under like the folklore and mythology side of that. But yeah, I it's a very blurred line. We'll say that.
Yep. Yeah, because it's one of those, it's weird because when you think of paranormal, like we mentioned earlier, you mostly think of ghosts and, demon spirits and that type of thing. You don't always go into, not a lot of people, realize that UFOs fall under that because they consider almost UFOs their own branch, even though it's under the big umbrella of paranormal. And I don't know, I think they all have their own category that they could fall in under.
Yeah, I agree that UFOs get branched under that as well. But I, for the most part, I feel the UFO community does not think that they're paranormal. Like, I feel as much as when you go to a convention and you have the aper, we're flesh and blood Bigfooters versus the woo metaphysical balls of light Bigfooters, that those guys don't get along. That the UFO community and everybody else, I feel there's a big disconnect there.
Yep. Yeah, because I think I'm going to start leaning towards like the UFO side of it, because that's where a lot of the research that I've been working on is leading us to. So it's kind of like, okay, we're headed over this way unintentionally, by accident.
So with that though, are you extraterrestrial or interdimensional UFO?
Still trying to figure that out.
Yeah. And this is, I follow very closely. I do a whole presentation on the government disclosure and the hearings and all the stuff that's going on right now with Congress and stuff. And the fascinating thing is all of this isn't pointing to outer space. They all talk about these things like they're here, just not all the time and not in our realm. And when like all these star something. I can't remember. No. It's a Skywatcher group. They are doing this project that's supposed to, call down UFOs on command. And they do this with either the psionics, the people who use their brains and the CE5 method and stuff, the psionic people to call these crafts down, or what they call the dog whistle. And this is supposed to be a frequency, supposedly a frequency that calls these things directly. And that's not interdimensional. That's not extraterrestrial. That's not off-world. Right. Now, granted, there could be both. There probably is both. Extraterrestrial, off-planet vehicles, off-planet entities coming here. But I do believe that a lot of this stuff, and even what they're saying now in Congress and all these eyewitnesses and stuff, is saying that these things are here. That they're at a different vibrational frequency. That's why this dog whistle calls them into being, because we're using that frequency, that harmonics, and bringing them through. Which also, if you look at this again for the science aspect of it, the technology and using this for validation, it makes sense for a lot of your claims and your science backing, because I am big on the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay. So the electromagnetic spectrum is frequencies ranging from very low frequencies, which is your radio frequencies, your television frequencies, your cell phones, and then it gets higher and the waves get smaller and faster, and then you get into the visual light spectrum, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And then as it gets faster, you get up into the radioactives, your microwaves, your all that stuff. So anybody that doesn't know what it is, that's your electromagnetic spectrum. It's a big graph. And when you look at this and you say that these beings and stuff kind of materialize. And what's interesting is some people do describe like a purple glow of these things or something, which would be your violet light, the top of our visual light spectrum of this purple light coming through. And a lot of times they leave this radioactive residue behind with them, which if these things are coming from a higher vibrational frequency, which is radioactive, and coming down into our visual light spectrum, they would be going from a higher vibration of radioactivity to a lower vibration of visual light and then back. This also explains why these things could travel through transdimensional mediums, through walls, through mountains, through water, because at those higher vibrational frequencies, they can penetrate different things. Now, look at this from a scientific aspect. Your cell phone, when you're in a metal building, it acts as a giant tin can, a Faraday cage. It blocks those radio frequencies. The radio frequencies, the cell phone frequencies, are very big, broad, looping frequencies. They cannot penetrate the metal. They cannot penetrate that Faraday cage. You lose radio signals. Your radio goes out when you go in an underpass, things like that. So when you get up into the higher vibrational frequencies, your radioactivity, your X-rays, your gamma rays and stuff, this is what we use to X-ray your body. This is what we use to cook food. So it penetrates, right? It can go through those lower frequencies of your bones, your skin, your flesh. That's how X-rays work. These are your higher vibrational radioactive frequencies. So if these elements of interdimensional extraterrestrial beings are vibrating at that higher electromagnetic frequency, when they lower that, they're able to penetrate through anything that's vibrating at a lower frequency. So they can go into mountains, they can go into water without disturbing it or anything. So science, it's really cool. There you go.
Yeah, because we've actually, and that's where the paranormal ghost side of it ties somewhat into that, because we've had investigations, and I've heard others have investigations too, where they take Geiger counters with, and that moment of paranormal activity, whether someone got touched, there's an EVP, there's, a visual, there's a slight burst in radioactivity in that single moment that activity started. So that kind of ties everything with what we're doing.
What's interesting is people have done this with Bigfoot and stuff as well, and other cryptids and stuff like that. We had one case where we had this property, and we were able to go on there, and there was different stick structures and areas where we thought had Bigfoot activity, where sightings were happened or trail camera images were captured and stuff. So we literally took the Geiger counter around to those specific locations, took baselines of the entire property, different areas of it, and then these specific spots. And now, this is not radioactivity that's going to hurt anybody. This is not anything that's off the charts, clear, distinct difference. We're talking micro levels of difference of higher elevation. But the areas that we specifically had activity, trail camera images where we knew that these things had traversed and possibly have been, did have a elevated level of radiation. So
it's interesting how it all ties together. So I know one time that we had you on, we had talked about the one project that I work on with Project Umbra and the Hetman project.
Yes.
Have you had any experiences? And we're launching it again. We're still working on a few things. We've had some road bumps, and but I know you had mentioned that you had filled out our questionnaire and that you had some experiences. Anything new happen?
Not new, thankfully. So we work a property that had a Hetman entity there quite a bit, and very malevolent being, to the point where we would be having discussions with other spirits of the property, and they would say he's coming, he's whatever, he's coming back. Everything would go quiet, and then just this malevolent presence came over, just dark, just chills, and then it would be, get out, leave, you're done, all this stuff. And then that would lift, and then the other ones would come back and go, okay, I'm back, and it's like just a clear night and day of that. And so we brought Ellie Weisensell from my team in, and we had Rez, who you had on last week, and Stephanie Lynn, also on my team. And myself and Stephanie and Rez created a safe bubble. We used our bodies. We created this circle, and we trapped the spirits that were in the building that wanted to stay. And we said, okay, we want to talk to you. So we're going to create this safe space. And we actually were able to have a decent conversation with these spirits without this thing coming in. And so we found a little bit about it. And then we're like, okay, we need to get rid of this thing. And so we started working on this, and we had all of our equipment lined up across this room, from a shadow detector, and then there was ghost balls, REM pods, EMF meters, and literally one by one, each one of these devices went off as something came through this room towards us. And it was one of the most intense, creepy, just as it moved in. So after several tries and invoking Michael and other archangels and other stuff, Ellie was able to trap and get rid of this entity from this property.
That's good.
And since then, everything has been upbeat and fine, and all these new spirits have come forward and said, oh yeah, we couldn't talk before because, you know, now we can talk. We've learned names. We've learned more about them because they're more able to talk to us now. And I mean, all the employees and stuff at this place haven't had any of that dark depression or just bad energy. And it's a much better feeling there now. So
that's good.
Thankfully, since then, I have not had any interactions with the Hat Man entity. So,
no, it's our research has gone. My goodness, I can't keep up with the different tangents it's gone off on. We've gone off on everything with possible UFO encounters, that he's related to that. Some say he's a watcher. Some say he's malevolent. Some say he's there to protect. And it's like, okay, which one is he? We can't keep up. But we're in the process of we started putting together a book with all the stories we've captured or that we've gathered from people. And it's going to end up being like a 4-volume book.
Wow.
Because we have so many people have come forward and they're willing to share their stories and let us publish it. And it's going to be interesting. So, because with each story, we're also doing research. And I'm not one for calling out entities. I'm not a Zach where, you know, come get me type of thing. But there are some locations that we know he's been present at that we're going to actually try to go investigate and call him out politely.
So I'll be honest. I agree with that 100%. Every ghost that's out there is the spirit of a person who passed. They need to be treated with respect. I'm not come on, do something, you know, I'm not that person. This thing ticked me off because when you're trying to have a conversation with another spirit there and it's too afraid to talk to you because this thing comes in, I went off on it on a couple occasions. And I'm like, if you're so tough, if all these other spirits are afraid of you, throw me up against the wall, do something to me, you know, come after me and do this. If you're that tough, make my equipment go off, do something, you know, prove that you're this big bad entity that they're all supposed to be afraid of. And nothing happened. I'm like, so what are you? You know, what is this that you think that you are? Why is everything here afraid of you when you show up? You know, and it's like, you're nothing. You're
it's a bully on the playground.
And we didn't get none. I didn't get thrown. I didn't get scratched. I didn't get nothing. You know, so you know, and I understand that. I do not recommend that. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not that kind of person. I don't do this. But when you have like I'm the kind of person who stands up to bullies. In high school and stuff, I always, you know, stood up for the little guy and stuff. And when you're coming into a location where the spirit is asking for help, and when we bring in a medium to talk to that spirit and you stick your nose in it and don't let that other spirit talk, you tick me off.
You're causing problems.
We're going to have words. And if you think that you can throw me up against a wall or you can do something to me, by all means, you show me how tough you are. And then we'll have this conversation. But
there's only been one investigation on that. I mean, I've been touched, pushed, scratched, you name it, but there's only one investigation where I was actually, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like they swept my feet out from underneath me and I flew up in the air a little bit and landed on my knees. And I got up and I yelled at that spirit or whatever it was that did what it did, like it was a 2-year-old that did something wrong. I'm like, you do not treat people like that. You do not do this. Everyone came running. They're like, what's going on? And I was sitting there still yelling at this.
That's right. Nope.
And we had no other bad
Bad
energy
ghost.
the rest of the night. I was just like, I was so mad I had it.
Mhm. I've never. I had well, this is, I think I've told this on your show already, but I had that experience in the haunted house that I owned where I had a 6-foot fake tree thrown at me.
Yep.
And that was the only real vicious thing that I've had. I've had like things, come towards me or whatever, but not scratched, I've been touched, had my hair brushed, stuff like that. I used to have really long hair. I've had that brushed in basements and stuff. I've had like my hat touched, but I've been touched, but nothing bad. So.
Yeah, I'll never forget where we were investigating in Vegas, and we were called in to help a company because they wanted their employees to know that yes, there are spirits here and they're not dangerous. And it had a theater in it. So we're in the theater and it was the end of the investigation. We're all just sitting around. But of course, I still had my digital voice recorder recording the whole time. And something grabbed my butt. I stood up and I yelled, "Okay, who grabbed my butt?" Later that night when we got home and we were reviewing it, we had a hee me right after it. And I'm like, okay, he was having fun with us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I like it when they're playful.
Absolutely. Okay. I was going to say something about the hat man. Where it was. Nope, that's gone.
It'll come to you after we're done.
Yeah. I had something else on that topic of that night and stuff, but I don't remember what it was. So. Oh, do you find in your research and stuff with these stories, to me, with the people that have come talk to me and shared their encounters, it almost seems like a Grim Reaper, like they're in charge of a soul or ferrying souls or moving souls of some sort of containing that soul or helping it cross something of that nature.
We have encountered some along that aspect, especially because he seems to appear a lot before there's death or devastation. A lot of people do report seeing him before a family member passes. But we've also encountered stories that almost make him like he's in charge of a group of spirits. Like he's in charge of shadow people type of, it's like he's the leader and then there's a whole bunch of his little minions running around doing whatever he needs to do. We have noticed similarities in stories on that.
Interesting. Yeah, that's I've heard several stories, and this one's I think out there. Well, it's on our podcast, so I'll share it. It's one of my team members, Barbara, had told us about. She woke up when she was younger, and she saw her grandmother sitting in the rocking chair next to her bed, and the Hat Man was standing behind her with his hand on her shoulder. And she said, like, help me. And she freaked out and ran out of the room. And she's like, okay, well, I need to help my grandmother. So the next night she woke up and saw the same thing, and she yelled at the Hat Man and he disappeared. And then her grandmother said, thank you, and disappeared. So stuff like that. I also was at a convention, and a lady told me about an encounter she had where she was at this house, and there was like a long sloping driveway going away from it. And she looked out the window, and this Hat Man entity was coming up the driveway, being followed by like this whole parade of ghosts. Long story short, but those were. It seems like
kind
there's
like
a lot of
Piper.
Kind of like he's in charge or like holding souls. In the case where we had him at the building, it seemed like he was holding these 3 child ghosts there, and wouldn't let them cross over, or wouldn't. He was just like hanging on to them there. And we have crossed those over. We have crossed the children over now at this point and everything, that they're fine. But that's also why we got rid of him. So
because one thing we have noticed is there is the 2 main things that stick out is, one, it's usually children that are having these encounters, or parents of children that are having the encounters, and then also the Rh negative blood type.
What is your blood type, if I can ask?
I don't know. I know it's not Rh negative. I know that much.
I am B positive. I don't fall into this group.
Okay.
We had this for Thanksgiving. We had a Untold Radio Network show special, and all the Untold Radio hosts were on the same show together.
Okay.
And well, this would be like Doug Hychek, the creator of Monster Quest, was there. Dean Bertram, all kinds. I can't remember. There was like 7 of us on the show at the time, and then all the people in the audience. And like 9 out of 10 of the people in the audience were all O negative. All of the show hosts except 2, myself and one of the other ones, were O negative. All of the show hosts on Untold Radio were O negative. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And we're
I know I knew it. I know I knew it at once, but that's not something. And and it's one of those. I should know. I know I should.
Probably should.
But and yeah, because I always know, and now I'm looking it up. I'm probably O negative as well, because I've always been told that I can donate whenever.
Those people in the audience, if I can ask, what is your blood type? If you could put it in the comments, if you know it, I would appreciate that. So I'm interested.
Yeah. So next time I get my blood work done, I'm going to ask them to type it just to make sure. But for some reason, from when I was little, I think I remember it being all I remember is universal donor, and I just did a quick search, and that's O negative.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, but yeah, we've been finding a lot of RH negative is a common ground for a lot of the paranormal encounters or Hatman encounters that we've been, especially the ones that lose time associated with it. So, and the other thing we just recently found too, we've been researching missing 411 cases and overlapping them on a map with Hatman encounter sightings. And they're all within so many miles of each other. They're like in clusters together. So it's getting kind of interesting.
Just take all the Hatman encounters, all the missing 411 encounters, all the cave systems, and all the Bigfoots, and I bet you they're all the same.
Yep. And
I wonder, again, this is going back to the conversation we had that night on Thanksgiving. Is that because we were talking about crystals and quartz crystals under the ground and stuff like that have high levels of activity? And if these areas that have a lot of quartz, do they have activity because there's quartz there and there's high levels of quartz creating energy in these areas? Or is the high levels of quartz manipulating us so that now there's 2 of you? Look at this.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Do the high levels of quartz interact with us in these areas and allow our higher vibrational levels to see these things? So it's not that the stuff in the area, it's not the quartz in the area causing the activity, it's the quartz in the area causing us to see the activity that's everywhere. So again, looking at the missing 411, the Bigfoot, the UFO, the cave systems, all these things, are they happening everywhere and we just don't know it? Or is these just the areas where we can interact with them, and that's why? That's so fascinating to think about and delve into those things. So.
Yep. Yeah, you and I need to work on some projects in the future, because that's the other, ironically, that's the other case that our project I'm working on is the Superman theory. I've been in touch with scientists in the UK where areas of quartz crystal, why is there a higher reporting of paranormal encounters in those areas? And that goes with is it trapping the energy? Is it conducing the energy? Or is it making us know it's there?
Yeah, that is fascinating. I am so intrigued by that. And the fact that quartz just in general is so weird, because we think of it as a rock, and it's not. It's not even like a solid. It is a hyper in motion substance that is a solid, like as we think of it. And that's crazy in itself. And the fact that, like, again, going back to the conversation we had on Thanksgiving on our network and stuff, that we use it in so many things, from technology to timepieces to cell phones and everything, that quartz is such a universal piece that we can use. And the stone tape theory of, is there data trapped inside these quartz crystals, like a floppy disk back in the day, or a CD-ROM or a hard drive, and it's stored in these quartz. What if quartz isn't actually a rock or anything at all? What if it is just solidified data?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, well, climb out of that wormhole. All right, you said you had other questions, so
no.
What other wormholes you want?
I do, but real quick, going back to the cave systems that you were mentioning earlier too, the one thing that we found interesting is when we were going through old hieroglyphics, we have found some petroglyphs that resemble the Hat Man, which is was very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that goes down the other rabbit hole. This is one of the things that I would like to research and go into. Is I'm gonna tell the story. My favorite episode for anybody that watches Doctor Who is Listen. And it's Peter Capaldi, and he starts the show with the proposition of what is underneath our beds, what is always in the corner of our eye, what is always there, and if there's something there, what would it do? And he writes this all on a chalkboard, and he turns around and he's like, "What would you do?" And he turns around, and written underneath it is "Listen" on the chalkboard. And that is my favorite Doctor Who episode, and it's absolutely mind-boggling, because we're all not okay. The majority of people will say are afraid of your closet, underneath your bed, what's coming up the stairways behind you, these liminal spaces. Why are we afraid of our closet? What is underneath our bed? What is chasing us up the stairs? Why do we all have these irrational fears of a small closet? It's a closet. Something get in there,
It's because we don't see it every day. Or, it's not part of our daily because it's closed.
So why are we afraid of this? There's no reason for that.
No. We had a basement in our house up in Illinois when I was younger. And even we lived there until I think I was 23, 24. And even at that age, I'd go down in the basement to get something, and I'd start going up the stairs. Halfway up the stairs, something would just tell me to run. And I just ran the rest of the way up the stairs. And I don't know why. It's just something that I did.
I hated walking across my mom when my mom was my mom's house growing up. I had my bedroom, and then I had to walk across the top of the stairs to get to the bathroom, and I never liked that. I would always dash it felt dark, and that was turned off, and the lights. So one of my favorite things here is my house. I have Alexa, and always listening. You can't say, and I have that because no matter where I am, I can turn on lights, and I don't have to get the light switch. I just call my savior, and she takes care of it for me. When she doesn't respond, then I freak out. But for the most part. But then she starts doing things that aren't there, and then I freak out even more. So I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. No one was talking to you. Okay.
On my phone, I can't put the comments up across the screen, but Anton said that non-observable spaces, such as you don't observe your bed every day, or, you're not always washing the closet type of thing. So yeah, I completely get that. But I've only had one interaction with an Alexa. We have one here, but we just never plugged it in. Yeah, no. But we're investigating a home, and it was weird. It was the same home that I was attacked in. But once we got done with it, we're all sitting down in the dining room, and I was talking with another investigator, just chit-chatting, finishing up the day while everybody was packing up. And I had just been diagnosed with chronic kidney disease stage 5. And I hadn't told anybody outside of my family. So none of the researchers on the team knew about it. I'm standing next to the Alexa, and all of a sudden it pops up, chronic kidney disease, and gives the definition and all the things that could cause it. And it's like right next to me on the counter. And I looked at that, and I'm like, oh crap. And it couldn't have read it from my phone because my phone was in the car, because I always leave my phone in the car when I do investigations. So it's like,
I'm not sure she can read, but she can definitely hear. So
yeah. But yeah, and we weren't even talking about kidney disease, nothing. I hadn't even told anybody, and it started reading this off while I was standing next to it. And I'm like, okay.
Creepy, but very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started laughing, and the investigator was like, well, what are you laughing about? And I told him, I'm like, hey, I was just diagnosed with this a couple months ago, and I hadn't told anybody. And he's like, hey, I'm going outside. So before we get going, we have about 15 minutes. Oh, go ahead.
I've heard some people that have started using their apps on their phones, their text-to-speech, and they'll turn on speech and just set it down and see if they get anything. I haven't had any luck with that myself, but it's very interesting to see what you could get as far as if something could communicate that way. So we've tried it a couple times, but
yeah. That I might try, but these spirit apps on your phones, I don't think I would try them.
Yeah. No, definitely do not recommend. If you have a spirit box, get a spirit box radio, like an actual radio that is not an app on your phone. Your app has your location, your information, your names. It can listen, it records. Yeah, it's
yeah. Even if you put it on airplane mode, it knows more than you think it knows. So we have 15 minutes left. I have a quick lightning round for you, and then we'll go into talking about the event that you have coming up, and then we'll close everything out. Real quick, 4 questions. Which is the most underrated cryptid?
Lightning might.
It's supposed to be lightning, but you know.
No, the screen hasn't frozen. I'm just thinking. Boy, I don't know. Underrated cryptid.
Yeah, here I am with the tough questions in the lightning round.
I want to give an actual answer. I don't want to just say, like, oh, well. I think that there are cryptids that are likely to exist, possibly, but people don't think of them when you think of a cryptid. Everybody thinks of Bigfoot monster and stuff like that, and Mothman and that. But your cryptids are pretty much things like that could exist that people just don't think. I will say your underrated cryptid, or your whatever, would be more like your more normal animals, like the black cats. People say and have pictures and stuff of black cougars in the United States. And I would say stuff like that is probably very underrated as far as like the maybe not the significance of it, because I mean it's just a coloration variant, but science says that we can't have melanistic cougars. So black melanistic, it's like albinism, the opposite, melanistic. And there's no reason that we couldn't have a melanistic cougar, black panther, black jaguar, or not black jaguar, cougar, panther. You can't have a black one of them, but you could. I have several pictures of albino ones that have been captured. So I would say stuff like that would be your there you go.
Okay. And which cryptid are you most skeptical about?
Well, I would say lake monsters. I would say that there's a pretty big skepticism there, because not that they don't exist, but that they're not what you think they are. A lot of people think that the Loch Ness monster and other these creatures are like plesiosaur type dinosaurs, long neck, big pudgy body. But your original sea monsters and stuff that were reported back in the oceans and stuff were actually serpentine or snake-like. And when you look at the bodies of water and the science behind it, it looks more and more like the Loch Ness monster, if it exists, would be a large eel. And that is pretty scientifically credible. The other thing is eels and plesiosaurs cannot raise up and have that neck like this. Their bone structure for a plesiosaur keeps its neck flat or down. So they wouldn't possibly have that neck movement in their bone structure. So there you go.
Night or daytime research?
Either's good. Daytime is better because you don't need specialized cameras and you can see where you're going without flashlights. Nighttime, you're going to get different things. So they're both valuable. They're both good for your research. And I think that you should do both and not leave any stone unturned.
And one location you haven't investigated yet, but want to?
I want to go to the land between the lakes. I think that would be a very interesting place. I've heard a lot of stories out of there as far as Bigfoot, Dogman, and paranormal and stuff like that. I also would like to, for paranormal, investigate the haunted Toys R Us in California.
Yep. You're just a big kid now. No.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so yeah, that brings me to the end of all my questions, but you do have an event coming up soon.
I do, yes. We have the Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Convention. It is Saturday, May 9th in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. It kicks off Friday evening or Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock with a kids Bigfoot hike. It is a 1-hour daylight hike into the woods with myself, Lauren Smith from Night Callers Radio, and Kelly Milner Halls, who is a children's cryptid, UFO, paranormal book author. We're going to be taking, and Chris McCurry from my team as well, we're going to be taking you out into the woods to show you what you can look for Bigfoot and things that you should know and be safe in that. And then at night, we are going out with Lauren, Chris, myself, Ken Gerhard, Larry Eisler, and Jay Bachochin for a Bigfoot night hike as well on the 8th, that Friday. And then Saturday, we have two speaker rooms and a workshop room with over 20 speakers and workshops, and then over 40 vendors that day. So topping it off with a seance with Christina Bloom and a psychic gallery reading with Terry Flick. So it's going to be an awesome event. Tickets are on sale now. They are $40 in advance or $50 at the door. And then the workshops are a separate fee and the Bigfoot hikes are a separate fee. So wisconsincaps.com, click on the CapCon link.
Okay, perfect. And anything else you want to share before we start closing things out?
I got a lot of events coming up. They're all on our website at the public events tab. I'm going to be at the Obscura Paracon in DeKalb, Illinois in March, and I think it's the 22nd, 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. And then I'm going to be at the 22nd, 23rd is Contact Modalities Expo in Delavan, Wisconsin. That's a big 3-day there. And then Chicago Paranormal Convention in June. So all that information is on our website, wisconsincaps.com, and then click on the public events tab.
Okay, and I will make sure that after we have our guests on the show, I usually get on our Facebook page within a week or so and get everything uploaded with the actual show replay link and all of the information on how to get a hold of you. And I'll put the information for your events as well there so people can find you.
Absolutely. You can find me also every week. Mondays, I do the Monsters on the Edge. And every Thursday, I host the Paranormal Spectrum, both podcasts on the Untold Radio Network on noon Central Time, or, you figure out the rest. And then you can find we get new episodes of our research and our investigations and stuff at Wisconsin Caps on YouTube. You can find all of our stuff there. So.
Perfect. I will definitely make sure I share that as well. And thank you again. As always, you've been an amazing guest. One thing I do want to ask you is later this summer, I would love to get your entire team on as a panel discussion for what you guys do. So I can throw some dates out to you. I was thinking about that when you were talking about your team earlier, which I think would be a lot of fun to have everybody on to discuss all the different aspects that everybody has with that.
Oh, yeah. That would be really cool. We haven't even done that ourselves. So.
Oh. No, I'll get you some dates, and I know we're booking into June and July right now. So and then speaking of future events, usually I have that banner going across the bottom, but I'm going to have to tell you because my phone won't let me do it. But next week on February 11th, we do have the team from CPRI coming in to talk about paranormal science, and it's going to be a panel discussion doing that. The next week on the 18th, we do have Robert Bradley coming back from CPRI to discuss paranormal physics. So we will be having those. As always, make sure you guys check us out on YouTube at Ghost Education 101 and on Facebook. And again, I always say this every week. One of these days, I will get to it. We do have a website, ghosteducation101.com. just has a welcome page right now, but stay tuned because we do have some amazing things planned, as well as a bunch of events that Tiffany and I are going to be doing in the future. So thank you again, Barnaby. As always, like I said, great to have you on. Thank you for, as I put it, babbling on with me today.
Hosting the show in your absence.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Thank you for being my co-host today while I disappeared.
I've had that on my show, and my guests have had to take over on one occasion. So, well aware.
Yep.
No worries.
Yep. Oh my God. The first time that happened to me, I had Mike Ricksecker on, and it was just me and him. And he's like, when we're watching the recording, he's like, "Hello, Heather. Hello." Like, I felt so bad.
Mine was I did that to Tobias Wayland from here in Wisconsin, and I also did it to Christopher Noel. I had really bad problems with his episode, so Christopher Noel got to host my show for a day.
I hate technology.
Yes.
But anyway, thank you, and I'll definitely be in touch, and good luck with everything that you have planned coming up soon. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We will see you next week.
See you on the edge.